friends. Welcome. If you are watching this on YouTube, I would like to draw your attention to my back window here where you can see an additional 3 feet of snow from the blizzard of 2026, which is surpassed the blizzard of 1978. So now Gen Z gets their own winter trauma story, and those of us who survived the blizzard of 78 can shut up. All right, so during the blizzard, I did a funny reel about my line of thinking, and one of the things I do quite unconsciously is I go immediately to dead. If I have a zit on my face, it's cancer, and I'm gonna die. If Pascal takes too long texting me back, he's clearly dead. If Maverick doesn't come the first time I call, he is also dead. This is not anxiety. I think it started when Pascal was little. And I think it's like seriously born out of a single mom logistics. I am always trying to manage the week, the week schedule. And when I go right to dead, it's not morbid. It is not, I don't feel an anxious bone in my body. I don't ruminate. It's a quick thought. And it's literally the logistics. Like, okay, first things first, I've got to get this in place, that in place. If it's, oh, it's a blizzard now. Okay, so technically, if I die during the blizzard, which was part of my thought process, does Pascal have everything he needs? Does he know where the folder is, the death folder? And does he, understand what to do fully for Maverick because he's not home all the time and understands Maverick's full routine? And it's the logistics, and oh shit, with the blizzard, when our flight's going to be resumed? So how is my sister going to come out from Oregon for my funeral? And literally in like 10 seconds. So, and it turns out a lot of people think this way from the comments. But a lot of people asked, hey, what's in your death folder? What's about the death folder? And they wanted to know. So I thought I'd do another podcast. I did one a long time ago, but I think it's always good to revisit this topic because it's really important that you set things up. And I know you're young and I know your kids are young, but set things up to make it super easy on the living. And I really appreciated when my mom died, they had already, and my dad and my stepmom have done this too. They've already bought their coffins. They've already said what kind of funeral they want. Like the funeral home is all taken care of. And I really appreciated that because it's wild how many decisions people have to make while they're actively grieving. It's like, I have never seen anything so rushed as like the week after a person dies. And that is when your grief is the most painful and shocking. And it's crazy the amount of things that have to go on. But I really encourage you, even though your kids are young, I think it's something we tend not to think about till we get a little bit older, but you really want things in place for your kids should something happen to you and your spouse, especially. So first and foremost, I have always had a will. And back when Pascal was little, I didn't have any money. I didn't have any assets, but I wanted to make sure as a single mom, he was not somehow put in the foster care system or I didn't know what all. So I had a will specifically just for who he would go to. And that got updated. So at first it was my mom and my stepdad. And then as my mom became more and more medically fragile, I updated it to a close friend with a child similar age as Pascal, and she and her husband agreed. So that is something you guys want to think about. And you've probably thought about it and discussed it, but make sure all parties know. And you want that in writing, particularly if there could be a fight for your kids, like in-laws versus, your parents versus his parents, or whatever the case may be. You want it in writing and you want all parties to know before you go. You don't want to leave that sort of custodial mess, like a literal custodial mess, behind. And you want it to be seamless for your kids. The next thing you really want is all your passwords. So one of the things that we learned the hard way before my mom died, about a year and a half before she died, she had a stroke, which took her memory. And she had very long-term memory, but no short-term memory, meaning like the last couple of years. So passwords, account numbers, all that stuff was in her care, not my stepdad. So if you guys are in a situation where one or the other spouse uh, has all the information or takes care of all the paperwork and the business and tax filings and all of that, make sure that that's all written down somewhere and make sure the other spouse knows. And I know this varies from family to family, so no judgment. I don't care who does it. I don't like, I have no judgment on that, but make sure all parties know and make sure that there's documentation of that. So that's what's in my folder. So it's actually, the folder contains like step by step. If something happens to me, here are all the things you need. Now, for me personally, this became more important when Pascal turned 18 because obviously now I had to switch beneficiaries to certain things. My beneficiary had always been the person who was going to get Pascal. So they could access my accounts. They were, secondary on my accounts. They were secondary on any assets I had, any investments, life insurance, that kind of thing, because I wanted them to get the money to take care of Pascal. And again, trusting in a lot. But I had trustworthy people. If you don't, you can also, I believe you can put that in a trust. I also have a revocable trust. So that is a flexible trust in which you manage things, but it's in the trust name. So I put my house and my cars in there and some assets in the revocable trust. So I am managing it. Pascal is the beneficiary of that should something happen to me. I've heard that that's a really good idea to do now anyway, with the dollar being so crazy. So I don't know if that's true, if that's regular, if that's advice or just Instagram advice. I don't know. You want to have a pour over will as well. So any assets you might have forgotten get included in the trust. And so all that information is in there as well. As in addition to that, also all the accounts. So now I have some investments and those accounts and details of what I have along with my financial planner, his name and number. I have my lawyer's number. I have emergency contacts should he need help with any sort of arrangements. I have that in there. And all of these get updated because, I have friends who I have ride or dies, and then they may fade out of my life for a little while. So I try to keep that information as current as possible. And any other pertinent information. And I think this is really, really important to do. Now, I have not paid for a funeral home or anything like that. I actually would like a green burial. So I do have instructions for what I think I would like, but I have discussed this with Pascal and I have written it down just to make it easier for him. But I said, I'll be dead, so you can do whatever you want. And he has always had this idea that he wants to cremate me and publicly on social media flush my ashes down the toilet in honor of Oh Crap Potty Training. So whatever. I also, obviously he's the beneficiary. I have residual income because of my books. And so, yeah, I've and then what else did I do? Oh, I have, again, what I would like for my funeral arrangements. I've had a loose suggestion for the obituary for my eulogy. I don't want to leave anything like if something happens to me really soon, and he's like 19, I don't want him to be responsible for my eulogy. So anyway, we went over it and he knows what it is. And I also update my obituary photo because I think that is like a pain in the ass. That was like a real pain in the ass with my mom. Finding a really good picture, especially since my mom had declined so much. Like I felt like how she looked when she died was not representative of her spirit. So like trying to find a picture of her. And I would honestly make sure you get really good pictures of your parents because a couple of things. Number one, a big thing with my mom, and I think this will go away with every generation, is half of the shit was analog and half of it was digital, including assets, including some investment stuff and pictures. And it was really hard to find pictures because, for most of her life, you didn't take pictures with a cell phone. And so all her younger photos were not, regular photos in a photo album, but we didn't know how to take pictures then. We didn't know angles. Like everybody just took pictures willy-nilly, right? And you had to send the film off and you didn't know if you had your eyes closed, but you were always in pictures with other people and bunny ears and parties, but they were crappy pictures. So it's really challenging. So if you have a boomer parent, I would make sure you get a good picture of them, especially if they still are very lively, because the thing that kind of shocked my whole family as we look back is my mom's decline. We, through her funeral process and going through all the pictures, her decline happened faster than we really thought. We were like, wow, 10 years ago, she looked really good, really full of life. And then as she declined, it felt like that had been her for a while, but it wasn't. It was really right around the pandemic that she took her first really bad decline, that she got a lot of sarcopenia, lost a lot of weight, and then became super frail. And so it was really, you never know what happens. This is why I'm so high on strength training, because you want to survive something bad that happens. One of the things that I think is the worst thing that happens to the elderly is they are usually they die from complications from a fall, because they don't have enough stores. They're not healthy enough to sustain bed rest, and bed rest knocks them out, because they might be on bed rest in a hospital where they could, staph is really common, pneumonia is really common just from laying there, and they can't get themselves moving fast enough. And so that's how they get these complications from the fall. So I think it can seem like, oh, I'm in good shape, but can you sustain that kind of injury? And so that's something you guys might want to look for your parents, but also think about yourself, because it just takes one thing to wipe you out, and then the decline can start, and the decline can be really rapid. So I think those two things really kind of surprised us. So anyway, this might even be useful for you to ask your parents. So now it's even more important with my parents, because my stepdad now it's just him. And so, and not being morbid, or that I live in fear of him just, falling and not ever getting up or something, or a heart attack, is I don't know where to access, so I sat down with him recently and I was like, show me where the phone numbers are. Who do I call? Who's in control of your finances? What are your accounts? And so we have his folder all set up, because it's such a pain. It's such red tape. And again, you're in the middle of grieving, and you've got to get through all this shit. And he's still dealing with stuff from my mom's death. So I think it's just really important. And again, I know your kids are little, but if you think, oh my God, something happens, what if something happens to me and my spouse? You just want everything to be super easy. I'm just going to interrupt for 1 second here, guys, because I've been signing off with put your phone down, and I want everybody to put their phone down. But we cannot do that in this day and age, right? We need our phone for various things. And so a large part of managing phones is managing what our particular energy drains are. For me, it's Instagram. For you, it might be something else. I also found that group chats and that voice messaging apps were really interrupting my day. So I've been a big proponent of the Brick. You've heard me talk about it on many, many podcasts. This is a device that you tap your phone to, and you can configure various settings and various combinations of apps. And this is great. So if I'm filming, I can shut down everything. If I just need to get a lot of work done, I can shut down Instagram and the voice messaging apps, and you can really pick and choose. And I know you can do this natively on your phone, but what I love about Brick is there's no breakthrough. And when you unbrick the phone, it's immediate. There's no lag in getting messages or whatever has backlogged while you're offline. I think our phones are such a major problem, and they're only going to get worse. They keep designing the apps, the colors, everything just to hook us more. And so I really, really, really think we need to put guardrails on, and we do have to go to extraordinary measures. I do not put shit in front of you guys that I don't fully believe in. This podcast has never had advertisements that I endorse, because I don't put stuff in front of you. And largely, I think there's just so much crap. I wouldn't do that to you guys. I believe in Brick 100%. It has been such a game changer for me, and you can get 10% off. I'll leave the link in the show notes if you guys are interested. All right, now back to the podcast. Password. So password management is intense. So if you have password keeper, which usually has one really, really good password, and all your passwords are saved in there, just make sure that is somewhere where they can locate it. So for my folder, that password is in the folder. My sister-in-law and brother, and then my sister have theirs on a hard drive. And so we have told each other where our passwords are just to help get it into things. I just recently made Pascal. Oh shoot, I meant to look it up before coming on this. It's in. I know it for iPhone. I don't know how it works on Android, but you can make somebody the secondary sort of owner of the phone so that they can unlock your phone. So should something happen and they don't have your passcode, they can get into your phone. And I think that's really valuable to notify long distance friends, or as people are, because you'll get messages. I think one of the weirdest things that has happened to me recently is, in two instances, I texted a friend, two different friends, and wasn't hearing back from them. And I was like, oh, and I texted again, like, hey, what's going on? And it turns out in both instances, these women had died. And I was like, wow, that's a weird thing, right? Like, you text somebody, they don't reply, you might even get irritated, and it turns out they had died. It's these things just kind of like stay floating. It's very strange. So that gives Pascal access to my phone, even though he knows the passcode. Yeah, and I think that's it. So whatever you just don't want to leave to chance, I would put in the death folder. And mine now is specifically tailored to a 19-year-old boy. So I made it, it's very easy to read. It's very clear. It's my wishes, but also, here's what to do first. Call this person first, call this person first. Made it very, very simple. So keep in mind, whoever might be looking at your death folder, make sure that it's very clear for them. Yeah. Easy to read, easy to access. And again, I just wanted him to be able to get into any one of my accounts. So he has money. I mean, he's he's an adult. And so he could keep the house, but he needs to know how to pay the mortgage. So any and all information is in that death folder. So anything you can think of really goes in there. And, some people I think I said this in the episode I did right after my mom died. I think as a society, we have to get better at dying. And part of that is having the hard conversation that we're all going to die. And I think so many people are so afraid of it, or think it's horrible or morbid to think of it. I do not think it is. And at 57, well, anybody, first of all, any of us can die at any time, right? But I want to make it easy for the people that are living, because wow, it's just unbelievable. If you've had somebody close to you die, it's unbelievable how much goes into that and taking care of business. So that's my thought. I don't feel very morbid about it at all. In fact, I have made it a running joke. I update my obituary photo for Pascal because I'm like, nope, use this one. And so we've kind of made it lighthearted. And I hope, should something happen to me, that he carries that lightheartedness, that, my mom had a lot to say about this, and I'm sure he will crack up an entire congregation of people at my funeral, telling people how, I wrote the eulogy for him. So I hope that would even ease his sense of grief should something happen to me. All right. On that cheery note, as always, you guys, I appreciate you, and rock on, put your phone down.